Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Monday, March the 2nd Committee of the Whole meeting. Nice to see staff, our EAD director here with us today, guests in the gallery, and of course, wonderful council. I'm going to start off with the land acknowledgement. We are privileged to meet near the confluence of the Kettle and Granby rivers, a location of ancestral importance to the hunters and fishers of our Indigenous communities. We have an agenda before us. Could I have a recommendation to accept the agenda as presented? Thank you, Councillor Lafleur, seconded by Councillor Krog. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. The minutes, adopted minutes from February the 9th. Committee of the Whole as presented. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Krog, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Moving on to register and petitions, we have a full day ahead of us today, so we'll try to go through this fairly timely. Donnie Dunlop is here to talk about the temporary use permit, and I'll invite Donnie Kopp to the, perhaps staff could help her, make sure she's mic'd and all that stuff. Oh, that's right, she brought her own chair. I know that feeling.
Thank you.
Good
Hello,
morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I think you're all aware that my son and I are both quite disabled, so I won't get into that right now. But, oh, sorry. Is that better? So we've run into a lot of problems, and we need to ask for more time. However, the good news is that all these discouraging setbacks and health problems may turn out to be a blessing for us, because they qualify us in many ways for funding to meet SSMUH mandates. And I'll read the list here. Something that's changed is that my son and I have to build ramps and wheelchair accessibility anyway, so we do want to share that with other people in similar situations. So I've been looking for approval to build 6 units on my property, and we've formed a sustainable nonprofit association where all proceeds go back into the association to maintain the 6-unit complex. I'm contributing my mortgage-free R2 land to our nonprofit association as security to land. And I'm granting a 99-year lease to ensure unity of title and that the units stay seniors' residences forever. It will be affordable housing, all units lower than market rents, and it helps bolster rural housing. It's not much, but it will help a few people. The complex is designed by people who live the mobility challenges daily. Somebody who's never spent a day in a wheelchair has no idea of the needs and frustrations that wheelchair users run into in a day. And our proposed complex exceeds BCBC 2024 standards. There's a lot more than just wider doors and grab bars to consider. It's designed for comfort and enhanced living for mobility challenged. Entry, voice-activated lights, remote fire doors, 7-foot wide hallways to allow passing, rushing, and even to stop for 2 chairs to pass each other in the hall, and or stop and with someone else in the complex on their way in or out. It will be an inclusive building with shared sunroom, games room, and movie nights to encourage residents to mingle, to reduce feelings of isolation, especially in winter. We're very fire safety conscious. It'll be all induction only cooking. And it'll be green built, 100% electric, and step 5 compliant. All units will be fully accessible for aging in place without needing to move or incur huge expenses to renovate as physical needs change. Residents will gain healthy independence and more opportunities to socialize to combat isolation, because the location is the most convenient in town. It's a quiet tree-lined, no-through flats, just 3 blocks from downtown shopping, pharmacies, banks, services, and doctors. So the location is walkable for those that can, and scooterable for anyone else. Alleviating vehicle reliance or dependence on others, especially since we have no regular bus service here, but it would take longer to get out and up into a bus than it would to get onto a scooter. So it was also built to be flood resilient with 8-foot 2-inch raised podium garage to accommodate vans for drop-off and deliveries, and ICF blocks for foundation for faster installation, better insulation, and lower utility bills. My background includes 15 years as resident manager of large condo complexes in Vancouver and Kelowna. My son was the BC manager of a large flagging company for many years, so he's used to dispensing or deploying crews. And he was manager for many years and is tech savvy for programming keyless entry and security. Over time, we will save the association approximately $150,000. Only above accumulate to rate our project highly for points towards funding for pre-construction costs and construction financing for building our proposed small seniors and mobility challenge complex. We expect to have the happiest little community in town. Now, because we didn't get everything moved off our lot, it probably looks like we're not doing anything at all, but when you see a swan on a lake, it looks very serene, but you don't see all the paddling that's going on underneath, and that's what I relate building to. There's a lot going on that you just don't see. So the holdups that we've run into have been the first 2 years. I applied to meet after buying 21 and 22. I wasn't able to get builders because they were rebuilding after the flood, and there were no contractors available. They were booked out 2 years in advance and too busy even to come and quote. That was a really stressful time. I constantly continued to seek available builders I'd even walk up to somebody in a store that looked like they might be a tradesperson and ask them if they knew any builders, or if they could recommend a company. And in 23, bad luck that year as I broke 5 vertebrae, which will never heal. Didn't accomplish that much that year beyond computer work. Building costs and materials had skyrocketed, so I spent a lot of time researching ways to build smaller and cheaper. However, none of the prefabs met city standards. In 24, I moved to an apartment and sold one RV to show good faith by getting those two things out of the way. When I learned my back would never heal, I decided to become more active in spite of it and opened a store to empty my accessory buildings, my prefab accessory buildings. However, at that time I got too sick to do much of anything, was finally diagnosed with Parkinson's, which severely limits what I can do. There are still a lot of days when I can't breathe well enough to even talk, not enough air to get words out, and no air, no stamina, so they're pretty wasted, non-productive days. And there's a point to all this which I'm coming to. Life is a lot more difficult for my son. Not only were both legs amputated 5 years ago, but he's experienced extremely painful muscular degeneration in both shoulders and hands. So out of 4 limbs, he basically only has partial use of his left hand. And I don't know how he has the resilience to keep going. He even holds down a part-time job since moving to Grand Forks 3 years ago. So I really have to admire him. All of this is to explain why I'm asking for more time due to hardship. Even seemingly minor tasks take my son and I an inordinate amount of time to accomplish. Then density laws increased, so I researched that avenue for alternate models of building faster and cheaper. There have been a lot of delays and discouragement, but I've never given up on getting our homes built. That's still priority. We would like to share it with others. I have a couple of questions for council. Last year I applied for a 3-year extension, and I was floored when the reply was 7 months. And I'm wondering how that was determined. Why 7 months? And especially 7 winter months. The BC Advocate announced in a meeting here last year that Grand Forks was building a 56-unit seniors complex. City had the land, the staff, the experience, and the funding. So, yeah, we were told that it was going to take another 3 years to build. With all those supports in place, I'm wondering what the barriers were to getting this much needed complex built. And if 3 years was the target, with all those supports in place, why would an ordinary person like myself, without all those supports, be expected to get built in only 7 months? Wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that I would experience some of those same barriers as well? So,
Okay, Donnie, let me interrupt here for a moment. And So this is regarding your temporary use permit. I just want to remind
Sorry,
council.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, this is regarding your extension of your temporary use permit. So I just let council know that we don't get too off in the woods here. To clarify, there was, yes, we did speak about building senior housing. There was no funding. That was the catalyst to moving this forward, was working with, in this case, Boundary Family Services, our nonprofit, and unfortunately, with the government's budget, there was no funding to be had, and therefore we weren't able to submit a plan. We have put $45,000, $50,000 away in the budget, that if that funding was to become available, that we could assist with engineering and costs. So, and that still stays, that's still in our budget. Unfortunately, we just didn't, the funding was not there. I believe the desire of this council is there, the land is there, we have the nonprofit, it's the funding that is the problem at this point in time. So just to be clear, there was no funding. We were looking for it. So regarding the 7, that is what council chose. Now we're before council again, asking for an extension, and we'll be able to discuss this in the regular meeting, and then come back and let you know the circumstances of what that looks like going forward. So, okay? All right, I appreciate that. I'll ask any councilors who have any questions regarding the temporary use permit. Is there any questions for Donnie at this point? Go ahead, Councilor Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mrs. Dunlop. Hi there, Mrs. Dunlop. Nice to see you again. I'll speak to my own side of the 7 months. Basically, we wanted to see if there was any forward motion and any progress and any changes to this project. My question to you is, if we extended it longer, say to July, November, whatever, do you see anything changing this year? Because I know you did mention waiting for funding, and we all know the funding is certainly not getting better.
Yes, for all the reasons that I listed, every one of them is a point on the point system for getting funding. And because it's a fairly small complex and could go a lot more quickly than a large complex, I do expect that we will get funding. And we'll have to change, because of this CMHC, we'll have to change where we're applying, but I do think that we will be viable for it.
Councilor Mark, on a follow-up?
A quick follow-up. Essentially, my understanding is that the funding is dried up. It's paused. It doesn't matter how many points. Some of these other projects had very good points as to why they should go ahead as well, and now they are without funding. Do you have an alternate plan if there is no government funding for this project?
Yes, I can go back to my original plan, which was to use my real estate group. But I'd really rather do it this way, through the society, or through the nonprofit society, to keep costs down and rents down. Because investors want their money back, right? So if we can do it through the society, we're not going to ask for our money back, and we are going to contribute the land. So,
okay. Councillor Thompson, you had a question as well?
Yes, just a couple of things. Mrs. Dunlop, I do like your plan. I think that is a really ambitious and good idea if it can go through. But my concern is with your personal health issues, that you've described, what toll will that have on your ability to oversee such an ambitious plan?
We have 3 directors now in the program, which are required, and I'm looking to a builder for a 4th director that would be my succession if I'm not able to do what I need to do physically for it. And the rest can be handled by computer, which I can do at home.
Okay, follow up, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, and in as much as the provincial government has eliminated anything for housing, how do you propose to pay for such an ambitious plan?
So I have to pay for it.
How would you pay for it? For the construction of this complex that you're looking to do?
If I can't get any government funding, then I will apply to some alternative funders, private lenders, and my real estate group. But like I say, that's not my first choice because they want to be paid back. So that's how it would be paid for, and then the rents would cover the mortgage.
Councillor
And
Stu,
I'm not
sorry.
I'm not asking anything for my property. I'm gifting out like $1 a year, and it's a 99-year lease, so they have no, the society has no payment due there.
Councillor Studley?
Yeah, how much longer or how many more attempts are you going to try get government funding before you switch to Plan B? It seems like government funding is essentially non-existent at this point, so maybe it might be time to just kind of forget about government funding and jump to Plan B. I'm just wondering when you might get to that point, just so we have a better timeline of when we could see something happening.
Well, I'll be working on both anyway, since the numbers are going to be much the same whether it's private or government funding. So I am working on that. And we would like it to be as soon as possible too, especially for my son. So those lenders will be addressed in the next couple of weeks. It takes me so long to do even a page of work, but so it could take 2 weeks to get that out, and then it will be up to them to decide when they can come up and have a look.
Okay, Councillor Thompson, and I think we'll draw the questions to a close here.
Yes, do you have a cost estimate of what it would require to build such a complex?
Do I have
Do you know what the costs would be to construct?
I don't have the total cost because that, of course, would be determined by interest rates as well. So who the funding was coming from, whether there was any grants available, that kind of thing changed the numbers and changed the cost of the build.
Okay, all right, one more follow-up.
Okay, you didn't really give me the information I'm looking for, and that is what the total cost of construction of these units would be. Is it going to be $1 million? Is it going to be $1.5 million? Or do you have an estimate on that?
1.3 is the upper range, but it does depend on funding as to what route we take. We want to do prefab because it's faster and because we're rural, and can have them delivered in that case, so that it's determined by that as well.
Okay, thanks you, Donnie. I appreciate your time here this morning. We'll revisit it in the regular and come back with an answer for you.
Can I just mention the asks that I have?
Sure, I'll give you the
Thank
grace to do that. So,
Okay, so you've already said that you'll be looking at more time, so I appreciate that. And also that it'll give me more time to sell the prefab accessory buildings with the weather more conducive to a sale than winter months. And if they have to be moved, I wouldn't be able to navigate the ground in my walker to show them properly. For lending purposes, I would like a letter acknowledging that the city has the power to approve a 563 variance to allow 6 units on my R2 lot without city having to change zoning citywide. So if you could consider that. And then a letter of support confirming the need for accessible seniors housing, which we all know is needed. And my 99-year lease guarantees the lots cannot be separated or sold. So I would ask that council accept a section 219 in lieu of a costly survey. I've been quoted from $2,500 to $8,000 for it, and that money would be much better utilized going into the building rather than to survey costs when the lots are guaranteed by a 99-year lease that they're not going to be separated or sold. And then I'm asking that my son and his dog be allowed to stay on as caretaker and security to avoid squatters and fire hazard of a vacant lot, such as the recent fire on 7th Avenue. That's someone I know personally, and a squatter came to her door at 4:30 in the morning because he's burned himself building a fire in her backyard, hidden by the garage. And we don't want our neighbors endangered, of course. So those are the asks that I have.
all right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Donnie. Councillor Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, more of a question, I guess, maybe to you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of questions about the actual design that was put forth versus what Mrs. Dunlop said she wanted to build. Can I ask those now, or is she going to be back later?
No, you can ask her now, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Dunlop, I had a couple of questions. You had mentioned a garage capable of holding a wheelchair access van, a common area, a sunroom for the residents. I didn't see those on the plan that you submitted.
Oh, I did send a copy to Graham and Dolores and Adriana that show the podium, so we'd have garage space underneath, and so it wouldn't be taking up parking space at the front of the building. So there is a diagram as well. I'm sorry, it's not with this one.
Garage space underneath the building?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So so residents would have covered parking. That's really awkward getting in and out of a vehicle with a.
And where is, sorry, just so I can understand better, are you proposing the sunroom common area go in the submitted building?
On the first floor, the units 1 to 6 will all be one level.
Okay.
And that they have to be raised up so high, but it is a flood zone, so they have to be raised up 5 feet anyway. So why not make it another 3 feet higher by garage parking for drop-offs and deliveries? And I can send another copy of Ian, if you like, to be distributed to council.
Okay. Yeah. If you could, I'd appreciate that.
Sorry?
Yes, please. Please send.
Staff,
Thanks.
I'm assuming staff had received that copy as assistant? Oh,
So through your worship, we submitted everything we received as part of this package. If there's something from an earlier date, we'll dig that out.
perfect. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Donnie. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, she'll need some help there, staff, so. Okay, moving along. Area D representative, Director Linda K. Weiss, please. Come on down.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see the sun out. It makes me very happy.
Boy, does it ever.
It's a busy time of year. As I write this, I can hear healthy peeping sounds coming from my incubator. And plans are being made for the arrival of the next batch of bouncing baby goats. We've also had the first yard fire and wiener roast of the year this past Valentine's Day. Spring is happily on its way. How would you guys know this stuff if I didn't tell you, right? I mean, some of us do. This is true. As always, there have been many RDKB meetings. Board of Directors, Boundary Services. Of note was the most recent meeting of the Kettle River Watershed Advisory Committee. This is a public committee that works to bring together industry and the people who are doing the hard work to manage and protect our watersheds. This is a group full of diverse views and strong personalities that come together for the good of our land and water. I strongly feel we need more of that cooperative energy. A large part of my work is supporting community groups to do the important work that they do. These last few weeks, I've worked closely with the ATV Association as they've met with BC Timber Sales to discuss trail access. I've also been working closely with the Woodworkers Guild, who are striving towards modernizing their guild structure. The Woodlot Association and the Wildlife Association also have had their AGMs that I was very pleased to attend. All these groups are full of strong, dedicated individuals and big personalities who I am very grateful for. This Thursday at 6 p.m. at the USCC Hall is the yearly Area D Town Hall. RDKB staff will be present to show you this year's budget and be available to answer your questions. I hope to see you all there. Let's keep working together.
Thank you very much, Director. Appreciate your comments and your cheery words. With
Thank
the
you.
sunshine and the new chicks and goats.
22 of them so far.
Wow.
I'm very pleased.
As a resident of downtown, I see no goats. I see lots of other things, but I don't see any goats.
True
So
enough.
it's always good. I can go over to Belinda K's and spend some time there. You our old goats. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Old
Yes.
goats can be
Well-
good goats too.
Well done. Well said.
Great.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving
Have a good
along. So we're at the monthly highlight reports, which we all have copies of. I'm going to just ask, is there any particular questions to any particular staff? Otherwise, we can receive it. Always a good report. Councillor Zielinski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the comments we have here is staff working on a range of bylaws and reviews. I was wondering if the communications bylaw or communications policy is part of that.
That is, and I am hoping to have it for the next committee of the whole. That the current policy is, I think, 45 pages and desperately needs to be trimmed down. So yeah, that one's been underway for several months, and we're getting close.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Continuing on.
Yeah.
Planning review for the city bike park. Can you update us on how that's going?
So I know planning is working with them on some things involving the floodplain and whatnot. I am working with them on the actual lease agreement or license of occupation. And at one point we thought one needed to be done before the other. We've since Christmas determined that we can do them overlapping. So we're getting close on that one as well.
And just underneath that note in our agenda, it says project status directed by council, 125 Market Avenue. What does directed by council mean?
Confirm you're in the planning section, through your worship? So 125 Market Ave. So through your worship, this is the delegation that was at council here recently regarding the 8 units or the R3 zoning down on Riverside and Market. And so my understanding, and Dolores can correct me if I'm wrong, just indicating we're working our way through that, and council should see that back hopefully at the next meeting.
As we're going to work through that process, you can give my memory a boost here. The request was cancellation of the commercial aspect, the core commercial on this building. Is that correct?
No,
So through your worship, it was a rezone, and if I recall, Councillor Market also suggested maybe even a rezone with a small spot zone. And so it was to rezone it from, I believe, core commercial to R3, which allows, sorry, I'll take a step back. Under the current zoning, it allows 50% residential and 50% commercial. Under the R3 designation, it would be residential and may have up to 30% neighborhood commercial, which Councillor Market indicated maybe they want to consider keeping that core commercial aspect to it.
Okay, I just go back to the property at 2nd and Central, the old Grand Forks Hotel site. The owner wanted to develop some housing there, and we said no because we needed the commercial on the ground floor. Is that correct? Is that my memory, or why isn't the owner building?
no, I don't recall that being the case. No, I don't think they ever. Go ahead, Councillor Krog.
Yeah, things have been discussed, but it wasn't that. Couple of quick questions. One about the electrical and the outage. How fried was that eagle?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Yeah, so the Eagle, yeah, it didn't fare too well with the strike. So
And is this a common thing? I've seen other birds, smaller birds.
we
but
get one every kind of year, maybe every 18 months. We see something like that, but it's not too common.
Okay, so quick question for my own curiosity. So how does that happen? 1,000 million birds land all over those things. Why do they occasionally go?
Correct. Yeah, just this wingspan. They connect the 2 wires and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And one other thing here. I lost it. Was there a second ago? Okay, it wasn't super. Oh, here. Probably not for you, but for other staff. It says work is being done on the audio visual system in county. Is that just statement that we're working towards it, or have we actually done anything? If that makes sense.
At the time it was written, we were starting to work on things. We were here, actually the entire corporate department on Friday afternoon to do a number of tests. One thing that we did do is the boundary microphones have all been disabled. We determined that that was actually picking up interference and was part of the problem. So your actual microphones today are critical. That is the only source of sound. But we've done a complete test. We've also found that one of the pieces of equipment that's managed by a third-party contractor may have been a problem, and they've done some updates on that as well. So while I hesitate to say we have got everything finished and ready to go, I suspect that what we see streaming out today will be much better than what we've had the last couple of weeks.
We're on YouTube, are we not?
And as a backup, we are streaming to the city's YouTube page as well, and that was just in case the third party through our eScribe platform, if that was a problem, the stream would also be on YouTube. So that is a bit of a test. I'm not sure if we'll continue to do that if the other proves to be reliable, but we didn't want to take any chances.
So am I now at YouTube reality?
Yes, you are.
Did you not sign the public release when you came in this morning, Councillor? Great. Great. One more connection to public media. Oh dear. Anyway, okay. Any other questions for staff regarding the report? Seeing none, then I would ask that the recommendation that the committee of the whole receive the monthly highlight reports from the department managers. Thank you. Councillor Fleur, seconded by Councillor Krog. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, staff. Great report. Capital project update. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Ben Stevens here, Director of Capital Projects. I'll introduce Sean in just a second. So our update today will focus on our source water, in particular our search for suitable locations for a new well. I'll explain that image in a little bit here, but that's our fire department in their ladder truck assisting with us flushing well 5 as part of our investigation process, just in case you were curious what that strange image is showing. So joining me today, do we have a couple people on? I'll start with Sean because he is here in person. So I'll introduce members of ISL's team, ISL Engineering's team that are supporting us with our water reservoir replacement project and now also our search for another well. So while Kevin gets Soren and Haley online, I'll introduce Sean. Any luck? Oh, there's... Okay, I'll start with Sean. So Sean Annan is the manager of ISL's West Kootenay office located in Rossland. Sean's focus is primarily municipal engineering and providing capital planning and project delivery support for municipalities and regional districts in the Kootenay and boundary areas. Sean has lived in the Kootenays for 12 years and has been working with the city of Grand Forks since 2023. And I do see Soren Poshman there. Soren is ISL's manager of hydrogeology with nearly 20 years of experience with groundwater well drilling, testing, and licensing for municipalities and industries. He is based in ISL's Calgary office, but commonly works and travels across Western Canada, providing hydrogeological advice for a variety of groundwater-related issues. And Haley may be joining. Haley O'Brien is a hydrogeologist at ISL, providing coverage from ISL's Squamish office. She is responsible for handling a variety of hydrogeological investigations with experience covering a variety of diverse consulting and operations roles over the past 15 years. So yeah, we're well armed today, hopefully to present this to council and answer any questions. I also want to say that while I have the privilege of presenting this update to council this morning, it has been our project manager, Peter Nabakshinov, who has been the lead on this project, and I've been very impressed, as frankly have our consultants, with how quickly and thoroughly he's been able to move things forward in this area. So, huge kudos to Peter. We'll focus on well 6 exploration today for pretty much the entire presentation because there's quite a bit to cover. At the end, we'll take any questions related to our water improvements projects, both on the wells or on the reservoir, while we have ISL here. And after that, we'll of course take any questions from council on any other capital projects. Next slide. Here we have a verbatim copy coming up. No problem. You'll see it in a minute. It's a verbatim copy of council's strategic priority as it relates to exploring additional wells. I've removed a couple statements that speak to the reservoir just so this is well specific. This strategic plan was developed by council during strategic planning in December and approved by council in January. These are essentially our highest level marching orders as staff for the year. We've achieved the first 2 bullets in that list now and are here today to present an update on them. I'll share this slide again at the end of the presentation to show what we've checked off and what remains to be done as it relates to this strategic priority. And then in the next several slides, we'll share our findings from previous explored wells, which we were asked to do as part of this strategic priority. We'll present our test sites. We'll have ISL walk through the rationale and present our test sites, explain why they were chosen, and then we'll present connection costs to bring those sites online if any of them proved to be viable wells after test drilling. So here's essentially what we've been up to. This list kind of succinctly describes several months of in-depth work by Peter coordinating things, and then by Soren's team doing a review and analysis. So staff reviewed dozens of past water well reports, aquifer studies, drilling records, and water quality data sets dating all the way back to 1963. Staff, Peter, compiled all relevant information for ISL's engineering's senior hydrogeologist, Soren, and his team, Haley, who we briefly saw there, for their analysis. And then ISL worked with us to collect water samples and run flow tests on the city's existing wells, several former wells, and even a few private wells, and then added that data into what they were reviewing. So they relied on this comprehensive data to map water quality and aquifer characteristics and developed recommendations for 5 new test well sites. And while not mentioned here, we've also leaned on Graham's expertise with respect to land use planning, and he's been working with Soren on the development of groundwater protection plan, which will be coming to council in an upcoming meeting. So previously explored wells, as part of the process, we looked back at 5 test wells the city previously drilled, 3 of them from 2018, which is why that TW test well 18 is there, 1 from 1999, and 1 from 1977. And where appropriate, we went back and retested them. We also looked closely at our current wells and provided information regarding our current wells to ISL for their review and analysis. And then the following slides will briefly speak to each of these these former wells.
Oh, just a moment. Councillor Zielinski, sorry.
Thank you. Just on that note, test well 99, is that a city well or is that provincial well?
Good question through the mayor. That is a city test well that was drilled in 1999. As I understand, it was labeled 99-2 because 99-1 ended up becoming well 3. Or well 3, I can't recall. So we drilled 2 wells, 2 test wells in 99. One of them we brought online and actually developed it, which became one of our well 3 or 3A. The other one at the hospital was left abandoned, basically. But both are city wells, yeah. Okay. So in 2018, working with Pateau and Associates and Urban Systems, the city did drill 3 test wells. 18-1, -2, and -3. TW 18-1 is in Angus MacDonald Park near those washrooms. So we went back to this well to look at it. The casing is intact. We did pump and resample this well in December. Flow was adequate to take samples and test them, which is not always the case. The raw water meet drinking water quality standards. So it could potentially be revisited, flushed at a much higher rate, and retested, but doing so would be quite an involved process. So for now, we're parking this one. Test well 18-2 is on Boundary Drive, just past the townhouses on the east side of the road. Similarly, this casing was intact, so it showed some promise to at least allow us to retest. However, upon trying to retest it, the recharge was too slow. In other words, the flow into the casing was too get adequate samples, and so we kind of had to leave this one without further testing. 18-3 was kind of the least promising even when they drilled it, and sure enough, we went back and revisited it, and it was decommissioned in 2019 after the test drilling. Only the section of casing above the ground was left in place, so there was really nothing. It's just a stick of pipe, and there's nothing to test. So no further info here. And then this one that Councillor Zielinski was asking about, it's by the helipad on 22nd Street near the hospital helipad. The casing was intact. We were able to pump it, and so Peter worked with our operations team for several hours, just so that we're not just sampling the water in the casing, we're actually sampling aquifer water available to this well. The flow was adequate to do those tests. The raw water, similar to Angus MacDonald, did not meet drinking water quality standards. As with Angus MacDonald, it could potentially be revisited if it was flushed at a much higher rate. It might test differently, so we'll park this one as well. And then this...
Excuse me, Councillor
Sure,
Zielinski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry to interrupt there, Ben. With your assessments and some of them being assessed as possible to re-enter, or no, will never be anything, do we have any assessments on how we can salvage those drill stems, or basically pipes out of the ground? I've got concerns like the one up Boundary is in the middle of the, well, not in the middle, but it's in the road allowance. And if we're determining them not good, are we going to actually fully salvage them so they're not an issue for us in the future?
Good question. Soren, do you mind if I put you on the spot here and just ask what is typically done to truly decommission a well? What's involved in that if we needed to, or decided that one was, ready to completely abandon forever? Is Soren not there, no? Hopefully he can, because he's presenting in a minute here. As I understand it, if a well is truly going to be abandoned forever, you can fill it with bentonite, fill it with clay, but typically you're not trying to pull that metal casing. It would be quite a process to drill. You'd almost have to re-drill to remove that casing.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So I've got eScribe for audio and visual, and Zoom, I think, for speaking and video. So I also think I'm quite far behind. Oop.
Yeah, go ahead, Soren. eScribe is about sometimes 45 seconds behind, so hopefully it's not that much. But if you can hear me,
Couldn't hear
go
that
ahead and
either.
just speak to the abandonment of wells.
Get it on Zoom now.
As I understand. Certainly, yeah, good point. So I'll go to the last test well, which was 1977 city test well. So this is on Kettle River Drive near the Black Train Bridge. This was considered. We looked at the data from when it was drilled, but the screens have previously been removed. The well was left to sand in. There is essentially no hole to test water from. To try to pump from it, we'd likely just pump sand, and so this was not pursued any further. In addition to old test wells, which I just kind of walked through, comprehensive data regarding our existing 5 wells, 2, 3, 3A, 4, and 5, as well as well 1, which is decommissioned, but still had data associated with it. That was all provided to ISL, including their mapping and analysis. And as part of that investigation, well 5 was flushed in December. This was a real team effort that relied heavily on water and sewer operations, as well as our industrial electrician, Greg, and the fire department. Thank you, Rich and team, for supporting us with this, to basically disperse the amount of water that we needed to flush, to get a true flushing of this, but not dump it to sanitary, which isn't great, and not make an enormous pool in the middle of the ballpark. The fire fire department was utilized to just spread the water around, which is a huge benefit to us, and use the engines to disperse that much water. Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Zinsky.
Just through the mayor, we've got something in writing from Interior Health that well's okay.
Correct. Interior Health has provided an email, and they are in support of us using well 5 without having to blend with other wells. That being said, we are continuing to test it regularly, and we're testing it regularly at the recommendation of ISL's, is it their water, is the guru that we're using? The treatment, yeah. So in ISL's water treatment team in Edmonton, they've provided a recommendation for how we should go about testing that well over the next several weeks, and we're doing exactly that. So with that, I'll pass things over to Soren. Do we think we've got things sorted here? Okay. So he's going to walk council through the rationale ISL used to select the 5 test sites, and then he'll present those locations on one of their maps. So over to you, Soren. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Are we good? People can hear me? I can't see anyone, but I can see the slides at least. Oh, there we go. Okay, good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, the previous question Ben answered correctly. Yes, to permanently abandon a well. That one I believe was filled with bentonite, and then you pull the casing up and mount it at surface. But yeah, moving ahead to picking the new test well locations. So we used the wealth of existing information that Ben and Peter and crew sent to us, and took a look at that and about 10 other things. So first and foremost, just making sure the aquifer is there. We need to make sure that the target aquifer is in the location where we're going to be drilling, and part of that is the groundwater flow direction and a couple other hydrogeological characteristics as well. We looked at the yield potential, or how much the well can pump through some past work, and the existing wells around there. We took a pretty hard look at water quality, and just try to make sure that the water quality would be good enough for city use. Looked at areas of known or potential contamination to make sure we're far enough away from that. I know there's been some issues with that in the past in the city. Floodplain extent, so generally you want to be out of the floodplain. You can be in it, but the top of the well has to be above the flood level. Protected flood zones are a bit of a gray area, but generally if you can avoid them, all the better. You also want to be far enough away from surface water bodies. You don't want to be pulling in that water directly, so the further back you get from them, generally the better water quality you have. So yeah, looked at how close we were to existing wells and trying to stay away from just having the wells essentially fight for the same groundwater. And then looked at city-owned land. We started off our assignment looking kind of outside city boundaries, but then decided to focus it in within the city, and then particularly in parcels of land the city already owns, and then how close we were to the water distribution system as well. So if you move ahead to the map, we can see the 5 locations we've picked. So they're numbered in order of priority, TW 2026, and then 1 through 5. So first priorities at the airport, at the far south end of 2nd Street. We liked the aquifer potential there. It's pretty low use around it compared to other spots. Close to infrastructure and quite a bit of city-owned land to work with. We then also picked an area pretty close to wells 3 and 3A, the disc golf course on 68th Ave across from No Frills. Again, quite a bit of land to work with. Getting a little bit closer to city-owned wells, but they shouldn't interfere too much with each other, and infrastructure is close there as well. And then number 3 is north the Columbia Drive road allowance near Coal Chute. Again, liked how the water quality looked up there. It's a bit further from infrastructure, a bit closer to some surrounding use, but definitely worth checking out. The 4th spot is a small city-owned lot at 68th Ave and 17th Street. there is, the wells 4 and 5 nearby, but it is close to infrastructure. Water quality is of question, but it's close enough to well 5, which we're now finding out is better than we thought. So worth checking out. And then a fifth location back close to the airport. Again, lots of land to work with. And because of that, we can get far enough away from the other test wells so that they shouldn't interfere with each other. Where exactly it goes in that location is kind of, we could go north of the runway so we don't have to cross things. It's pretty open, but generally at that western end of the runway there.
We
So
have a
those are-
question from Councillor Zelinski.
Good afternoon. So that's the one that sort of is an outlier on number 5 as far as why way out there. There's really no other production wells out there. It's away from infrastructure and everything else. So I'm concerned about spending money on something that I don't see viable off the top.
Yeah, fair enough, through the mayor. That's why it was the last location picked. The plan of attack is to go in order and assess as we go. So that's lowest priority. It is farthest away from infrastructure for sure. The fact it isn't around other production wells is usually a good thing. The information we had from the past work is that the aquifer should be pretty good in that area. So, and same with the water quality. So that's why we didn't want to fully discount it at this point.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Soren. I'll chime back in here. So the next slide just kind of summarizes the locations of those 5 recommended sites. So to recap, here's the list that we're planning to drill. We plan to do these generally in order, as Soren mentioned, and we expect we'll do at least the first 4 locations. The second airport location, as Soren was kind of alluding to, will be dependent on our budget. We're not planning to go over $1 over 400,000 on all of this program, including engineering and hydrogeology and the drilling of sites, of course. So we won't drill that 5th well unless budget allows. We also won't drill that 5th well if we find other viable wells, especially that first one. And so I think this kind of was maybe your point, Councillor Zelinski, through the mayor. If test well 26-1 is a good well, then it would not make sense to go and drill on the other side of the airstrip, which is a costlier well to connect. If 26-1 is not viable, and this tends to happen sometimes, if it just doesn't work, we hit sand or something, clay, then ISL is recommending that we revisit the airport, that we don't discount the airport entirely because there is enough difference, hydrogeologically speaking, between those 2 sites. And so test well 26-5, hopefully it's on the list because we may be unsuccessful, knock on wood, with those first 4. So now we have a slide showing approximately where we drill each well. I'll move through those quickly in the interest of time, but it's important to note that ISL's recommended locations are not precise points on the ground, right? They are, zones or areas 100 meters in radius where they're recommending for all the reasons Soren described. They are not exact locations with, say, a 5-meter or 10-meter radius. And so each of these 5 locations are on city property, and exactly where we drill in these images will kind of be dependent on the drilling contractor and their ability to get in there and do their work. So here we have the location at the airport at the south end of 2nd Street, TW 26-1. The next one, 26-2, is at the disc golf course. We will get in touch with the disc golf course group before we actually discuss exact location, because we don't want to drill at a tee not knowing it's a tee, or do something if they're planning to move one of the holes. I don't know if they're called holes, but if they're moving something, we don't want to do something unnecessarily that impacts them. We do think there's plenty of land that we can find a spot that works for everybody up here. TW 26-3 is on city property. It is the road allowance of Columbia Drive. It's not a developed road. As council knows, Columbia Drive does not go through there to Coalshoot, but there is a road allowance adjacent the Railway Park development property. It is quite wide. It's 20 meters wide, and so there would be room for a well. There would be room for a well and someday even connecting Columbia Drive through. So we'll make sure we don't paint ourselves into a corner there. It looks here as though trees would need to be removed. I don't necessarily think that's the case. If we were able to gain access from the other side, it would kind of depend again on the drilling rig and what they could do, but we wouldn't unnecessarily be removing trees to drill a test well. 26-4 is a small city lot on 68th Avenue near 17th Street. Not as high on the recommendation list in terms of our likelihood of finding really good high quality water, but you never know, and it made the list because it is right on a pipeline, and so the connection costs are lower for this one. And lastly, we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's the potential second well at the airport. Maybe, definitely want to be a couple hundred meters from that first test well, but maybe we could be on the north side of that airstrip instead of the south side. We'll look at that if it becomes necessary. And then the next image will kind of show something we were doing as city staff in parallel to ISL's team, Soren's team, coming up with these recommendations. And that was meeting with operations and just kind of discussing ideas, right? We almost wanted to have a parallel, separate process where we came up with a list of, what ifs. What about this spot? What about this spot? We wanted to lean on the expertise that exists at the city already. We've had people working there for decades that are really knowledgeable about how our water system works. And so we kind of met with them and asked them, okay, let's come up with a list to present to ISL of potential locations. Where have you dreamed of a well one day being? And so we did that. We had 16 locations. We provided that to Soren and his team. And then some of them overlapped, right? Some of them were areas that were ISL's list, which is good news. And now we do have a record of why other areas were ruled out. So all 16 of those spots, we have a statement from ISL, from Soren, explaining why it was either chosen or not chosen, which we felt was an important piece. I'll now pass things over to Sean, and he's going to speak to the costs associated with bringing any of these wells online if they are viable. So the next slide will show costs.
Councillor Thompson, you have a question?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought there was water at the airport that went building that was being built? A water line. Okay. Yep.
Correct. So thankfully the airport is on our distribution system, and so they are fed by wells on the west end of town, and then it makes its way to the reservoir, and then that's connected to the distribution system, which provides water to the airport. It does mean, thankfully, that if we're successful with a well near the airport terminal there, we don't have that far to go to connect to the distribution system. It's not way out in the wilderness. So next image will show the costs, which Sean's going to walk us through. Just a couple points about these. This is not money that we are asking council for now. This was something council had asked us to bring back to you for discussion before we even drill the test wells. What would it cost if any is proved to be viable? Another point I'll make here is there is no grand total here. In other words, please don't add up all of those the rows on the far right, because the intent here is certainly not to bring 5 new wells online. It is over the next couple of years to find well 6, and so which one of these becomes well 6 is kind of the big. So with that, I'll pass it to Sean to explain these numbers.
Thank you, Ben, and good morning, Mayor and Council. So the city had asked ISL to have a look at some of the anticipated costs to bring well 6 online, and the table shown ahead of us kind of details some of those costs out. So we have the well site itself shown as $1.3 million, and that includes essentially the drilling, the commissioning, bringing the well online, the building, the mechanical equipment. So that $1.3 million is the same across all sites essentially. So we would expect the same structure, the same equipment inside. And then the next considerations that follow are looking at the lengths and efforts needed to connect the well to the distribution system. That obviously distance is going to change as each well is in a different location. And then the next consideration we made was considering if any off-site improvements or improvements to the distribution system within the distribution system would be required. So a circumstance like that would be if there was a bottleneck somewhere between where the well connects and where that water reaches kind of one of the trunk mains, which lets it more effectively be distributed. And so we looked at two scenarios there. We looked at whether we need to increase the supply line 8-inch from the well itself to the distribution system, and then within the distribution system to a trunk main. And then we also looked at the length and cost if it needed to be a 10-inch pipe. And the horse is a little ahead of the cart here, or so to speak, in the sense that we don't actually know what level of upgrades are required in the system until we have the well drilled and tested, until we know how much water it can produce. What would also affect that consideration is the sequencing of well city's operation, or any perhaps future changes to that well sequence. If there was a plan to retire a certain well at a certain time, which would change kind of how the lion's share of pumping was distributed. So those, I expect we'd be somewhere in between those two scenarios, which is why in the final column on the right, we list kind of an upper and a lower range. And just to reiterate, determining that number would happen after we selected a well site and we have some of those variables identified.
Thanks, Sean. So we plan to come back to council essentially with an updated version of this table after our test wells are drilled, and at that point ISL will have modeled what those wells are actually capable of, and these numbers will be a lot more refined, and unfortunately a couple of them will probably be ruled out entirely because they'll be unsuccessful. It's just the kind of the way the game goes. We'll move on to just the revisiting of the strategic plan, and so you can kind of see some check boxes there in terms of what we achieved today. Those first two check boxes. The third one is, fund the exploration and investigation through the ISIP water grant, and so council has directed staff to utilize up to $400,000 of that grant. Thankfully, the province has said, by all means, it is eligible. We are under budget on the reservoir, and so that's how we're going to fund the drilling expedition, if you will. And so the next steps planned through March and July are kind of detailed on the next slide here. So staff and ISL Engineering will procure a drilling contractor to drill up to 5 test wells at the locations we presented today. And that first bullet is procurement. So we're not planning to drill in March, we're planning to get procurement done and a drilling contractor on board. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to work, operations is testing well 5. We're going to continue to do that based on ISL's recommendations, provide the results of those tests to ISL for further analysis. Moving on into April and May, that's when we are hoping, kind of depends on what the market's capable of, but we're hoping there's a drilling contractor at a competitive number that can come and do the 5 test wells in April and May. We'll then spend June or thereabouts analyzing the results of those of the test drilling, and then we'll come back to council after ISL has modeled those viable wells, updated our cost estimates. We'll come back to council in July. I will say this is tentative. It all depends on what what the market is capable of and different things. So this is kind of what we're hoping to do, and we do speak to council once a month so that we can update you on how we're. And yeah, I appreciate the time. It's a lot to digest. I will leave it there. Thank you.
All right, we'll seek some questions. Councillor Zielinski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when you were directed to probably ISL, in your presentation you said you looked at other private wells. So with the drilling logs and whatnot, were you looking at a lot of them or just a handful of private wells?
Soren, feel free to jump in if I'm off base here, but we worked with, I think it was 2 or 3 private individuals that happened to have wells in areas we were interested in, and we were just looking for water quality. We wanted to check their water. They were good enough to let us in there and check their water for quality. We got lab results from those, and then ISL utilized that information as they were mapping out the aquifer. So it filled in a few holes by using private well quality information, not flow information, because a small private well doesn't really tell us what we need to know in terms of flow.
Correct.
I guess, so as long as we're not missing an opportunity that there's a private well out there that would feed this whole town 3 times over, and with a simple land purchase, we might be able to do that.
Yeah, they were small residential wells, and a couple of them weren't even in city boundaries. They were out west of town, where the aquifer shows a lot of promise, but we wanted to fill in a couple gaps as it related to water quality. So they're not even in the city, and they're quite small.
Also, no issue with water licenses. We shouldn't have an issue with that if we did get a good well going.
Yeah, go ahead, Soren. I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, it's always tough to say for sure one way or another with these things with the province, but I'm confident for a municipality this size and the water demands you have, and with where we've placed the wells, attempting to minimize interference with other users as much as possible, and the testing and analysis we have to go through, that we'd have a defensible case for licensing. Yeah.
Okay, so correct. There's the one site up at the end of Coal Chute, right at our northern boundary, very close to a Scion well. Are we going deeper than Scion? I think they're deeper. Are we going to have problems with that well if we find something?
Take this one. Yeah, it's tough to say until we get out there and drill and test it. It's generally all the same aquifer. I believe they are quite a bit deeper, and we're not targeting as deep. But it was for sure what we factored in when we were looking at locations is trying to get a distance from these as much as possible. The aquifer is good. The zone of influence is smaller, I guess, than you would see in some aquifers, but it's for sure something that we have to look at when we drill that spot.
One last question for you, gentlemen. Since we have you guys in the room, what's the best use of the old reservoir up on top of the hill once we get the new one built? Is it a good skateboard park, or what have you used old reservoirs for in the past?
There are some, the Interior Health Authority's concerns included water quality concerns relating to stagnation due to lack of turnover and contamination due to airborne particles. Those aren't going to go away. So to connect it to the system as a potable source of water would be an issue. It can be used as a non-potable for fire storage, for example, is one idea. But that would need to go through like an approval process with Interior Health Authority to maintain a level of kind of safe separation.
Okay. All right, Councillor Studley.
I assume you guys have some sort of map of all the underground creeks and rivers that are here, and factor that into all your exploration?
Good question. Yeah, so ISL was provided with the comment from I think it's right on the province's website, that our aquifer is one of the most studied aquifers in the province. I think it's number 158. It's not that large, but it's relatively large, and it's really well studied. And so there's studies dating back to 1963, as we mentioned, and then right on through. Pateau and Associates have done multiple studies. Simon Fraser University has done one. All of that information, which would have included maps of the location of the aquifer, the depth of the aquifer, the stratigraphy, all of that was provided to ISL and was included in their analysis. Good question. Yep.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your information today. All right, moving along, we have the development for information item, which was the Financial Security Chief Administration Officer development information that was given us. Any questions for our CAO? General information. All right, proposed bylaws for discussion. So A, the 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 2124. The recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommends Council give first 3 readings to the 2026-2030 5-year financial plan, bylaw number 2124, at the March 23rd, 2026 regular meeting. I move it? Thank you, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Mark. Any questions? Before. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 1958-A19, electrical, water, and sewer fees and charges. The recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommends Council gives first three readings to the Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1958-A19 at the March 23rd, 26th regular meeting. Could I move it? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seconded by Councillor Fleur. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, carried. Introduction of replacement fire and life safety bylaw. Recommendation is that that the Committee of the Whole refer the draft fire and life safety bylaw update to the March 23rd, 2026 regular meeting for first three readings. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Mark. Any questions? Councillor Zelinski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick question. I didn't know if it was this bylaw or someplace else where we designated the fire chief an officer's position. I don't know if it's in this bylaw. Did you find that at all, or is that a good thing or not a good thing? Any comments? It's under the revision. It's staying that way. Maybe I should ask that way.
Yes. Right.
So yeah, the original fire and life safety bylaw, along with a number of other department bylaws, did have that designation. Council made the change under the officer's appointment bylaw to limit that to the statutory positions. The fire, again, along with a couple of others, did have some holdover language. This changes that language, but under provincial regulation, the council does still designate the fire chief as the person responsible for that, but it is not a statutory officer position.
Okay. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Coming down to questions from the public and media. Just let Kevin check here. The online. Seeing none? Okay. All right. No questions. Okay. So we'll move to adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Fleur. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So we'll move into regular here fairly quickly. We'll need a little bit of a break to change, I think. All right, so let's call this regular meeting, Monday, March the 2nd meeting to order. The agenda is before us. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Fleur, seconded by Councillor Krog. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought I said hand up. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed and carried. The minutes from the February 9th, 2026 regular minutes meeting. To adopt the minutes, thank you, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fleur. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. All right, moving on to our councillors' reports. Let's start with Councillor Studley over there in the corner.
Nothing too exciting. I did attend the museum board meeting a couple days ago. Seems like everything's going smoothly. They're rearranging lots of the artifacts and displays on the inside. They're doing quite the big job with that. They've also kind of cleaned up and brought in some of the artifacts that were in the sea cans and sort of sorting those out, going through those. So doing lots and lots of work. I look forward to seeing the end results. So I will have the minutes soon and then send them to you.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Mark.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Krog.
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Lafleur.
On February 11th, the Grand Forks Fire Department invited council to the push-in ceremony for the new fire engine. This tradition symbolizes the official commissioning of the new engine. While it honors the history of the horse-drawn equipment that could not reverse, celebrating community support and the new fire engine's readiness. My husband and I participated in the ceremony, and Duncan was also there. February 12th, As council liaison, I attended the Rec Commission meeting, and the final report should be in my next agenda, which I can share with everyone. February 17th, along with council, I attended the special budget meeting. It was nice to see a few people in the gallery. And then February 19th, as council liaison to the Senior Society, I attended the Grand Forks Senior Society AGM, where they installed a new board of directors. And then later that afternoon, joined the Bounty Family Services coffee drop-in for seniors at the center. I have to say that from the time that the Senior Center reopened their doors to now, it is incredible everything that's going on there. So kudos to the seniors. Great. February 19th, the library board got to meet the new director, Maddie Furrow. And just a reminder that if you are so inclined and interested, the library board is looking for additional board members, and the information is on their website. And this past weekend, the Bounty Family Services annual fundraiser, the coldest night of the year, was held. I didn't walk this year, maybe next year, but we did sponsor 2 teams of walkers. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Very short and sweet. I didn't write it because I only did one thing, and that was I attended the special budget meeting on the 17th, and I regret I didn't get the email from our fire chief in time to attend the. Well, I got it, but I didn't read it until it was too late. I was in the middle of making my dinner, so I'm sorry I missed that. And that's all I have to report.
Councillor Zielinski? Okay. Mine is fairly short as well. I did attend the coldest night walk. I didn't walk the long distance. I walked the short distance, and knee replacement didn't stop me. I got around. I got there, got back for the chili, and it was I understand they have succeeded their budget of $20,000, which is excellent. Thank you to all the volunteers and everything. It was an excellent event. It wasn't certainly the coldest night here in Grand Forks, but it was still great to come together as a community and support Boundary Family Services and all the good work that they do throughout the Boundary area. I would be remiss in not mentioning that this coming Friday is opening night for Alice in Wonderland at the high school gym, high school auditorium. It's at 6:30. Tickets are available at Mountain Meats. And so if you're interested in coming out to support, they have 3 shows this weekend and 3 shows next weekend. And then I'll have my life and house back to normal again after that's over. So that's always important. And, you know, as a mayor, certainly who's politically astute in some regards, I certainly have been watching what's going on in this world. And I'll tell you, every morning I wake up and I look outside my window, and I am so grateful that I live in Grand Forks and in the community and the time that we live in with what's going on and what happened in Mexico and now in Iran and throughout the world. You know, I hope we all take a moment to thank our community for who we are and what we are, and get out and enjoy it. The weather's been phenomenal. Get some fresh air, and turn off CNN, put away your phones, and just concentrate on the beauty that's around you. I would encourage. It's good for the health. I settled yesterday in the sun and took in some vitamin D, and it certainly did a world of good for my psyche. So, anyways, and that's my report. So I'd like a recommendation to receive the council's reports. Thank you, Councillor Fleur. Seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, let's get to the meat of the meeting here. So temporary use permit extension. I'm going to make it. Absolutely, go ahead.
Just because it wasn't mentioned this morning, so through your worship, temporary use permit, I'm sure council's aware, but for the gallery and for anybody else watching, a temporary use permit can be issued. It can be renewed once. It doesn't have to follow the same time frame. This applicant has already received 1 new TUP October 2025, 7 months, expires March 6, 2026. Council has the option to renew, but you renew as is. That renewal can be anywhere from 1 day to 3 years. Doesn't matter what the initial term was or the original term. There were a number of requests from the applicant that Kevin also wrote down, some of which you can't necessarily do, which is preconceive a land use decision regarding spot zoning. but there are other items. So I just context. Thank you.
So my recommendation is going to be, with the extension of the permit, that we extend it 1 year. And I say that for a reason, because if we do it for 6 months, that means we're going to come back in September. We're going to have to, and because it can't be renewed any longer, we're going to have to put out a whole new request to the community and everything else. This has no bearing on her plan for senior housing and that stuff. That's outside the realm at this point in time until she comes back with something better planned, or a more solid plan. But I think otherwise we're going to be back sitting around this table again in September, going through it. This will give her a year to be able to do the funding or whatever it is that she needs to do or needs to do to move her project forward. And because, I mean, we know nothing's going to be done in 6 months. It's just not going to happen, which means we're going to be back. And we're going to have to go through the whole process. That is my recommendation. I'm not saying council has support it. I'm just saying that I think that's the right way to go here. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here again in September discussing it again. So anyways, I'm open for questions. Go ahead, Councilor Mark.
I'll make the motion that we renew for a period of 1 year.
Okay.
Based on exactly what the mayor said there.
All right. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councilor Krog. Good. Yeah, just sorry. Okay, perfect. Okay, Councilor Fleur. Okay, all right. Okay, Councilor Mark. Tell us the hot potato. Let's go around the
Through you to staff, any feedback received from the neighbors regarding this property? I haven't heard of any issues, but.
So through your worship, because we didn't do it's not a new application, we didn't actually do any mailouts or anything, but as far as bylaw complaints or any other concerns? Nothing comes to mind, but we haven't looked.
Yeah. Okay, Councilor Lafleur.
I will agree with the 1 year, but I think we need to make it pretty clear to Donnie that if the city can't get funding to build seniors housing, a brand new corporation that's just been established with no history is not going to get grant funding either to establish, to build seniors housing. And I think she needs to get a bit more realistic in what she's trying to achieve.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Councilor. We are, unfortunately, we were looking at the temporary use permit, and I think, but I agree. I think that there's complications there. Councilor Krog first, and then Councilor Studley.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that there has been some movement, that she moved in off the property into an apartment and is starting to sell things. So, yeah, that's why I support it for the year. I don't know, yeah, there's no government money right now for large projects. Actually, if it was done right, it would be cheaper than a lot of other things. But a smaller project might actually get some support. So we can only hope.
Thank you. Councilor Studley.
Yeah, sort of two things. I did kind of allude to maybe she should switch to Plan B. It would be nice to get some confirmation, maybe have something in the motion of that thing. Maybe can we get regular reporting that she's pivoting towards some sort of Plan B or something. And in terms of RV or not RV, we kind of already have the stance that people shouldn't live in RV. That's not something we want in town. And that has been a while. So again, if I were to approve this, I'd like to see some sort of regular reporting on how they're trying to get out of the RV.
Okay.
So.
All right, so let's, I don't know, is that something that
Your worship, it's a renewal, so it's as is, or
Okay.
new process.
Okay, so as is, okay. All right, so let's deal with that first, then we can talk about the letters that she's requested here. All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we put a 1 year temporary use permit extension in place here for Donnie. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Not what I really want to do, but we're going to start doing. Okay, so then she wanted a letter acknowledging spot zoning, which we really can't do, correct?
So through your worship, looking at the list, so the fourth one you've addressed through your extension. The third, until we know exactly what's happening on the property, I wouldn't recommend maybe going down that path until there's some funding and an actual project and an application. The second, letter of support confirming the need for senior housing within council's bailiwick today. Letter acknowledging spot zoning to accommodate 6 dwellings. Can't preconceive a land use decision. You'll have to wait on that one.
Okay, Councilor Mark?
I had a question, through you, Mr. Mayor, to me to planning. With the 219 agreement instead of a survey, other than dissolving that interior parcel line, does that change anything for us, really, or?
It would be a variance to the setback because obviously she can't build over property lines, so it would likely be a variance, but it's messy, so planning, we would likely recommend that the consolidation occur.
Consolidation's done through land titles, doesn't come to council, and is usually an application, correct?
I believe this actually would be considered a subdivision. I have to confirm, but it still wouldn't necessarily have to come to council. It might trigger a DP for subdivision, which would be kind of more like just a desktop administrative exercise for council. So, I'd have to look into a little further, but yeah. Yeah, it would be a consolidation, I believe, because I think it's already been subdivided in the past, so it would actually may trigger a subdivision.
Councilor Mark, on top?
Quick follow-up. Yeah, it was my intention just to find out what the easiest way for her to essentially make those 2 lots into one would be. I don't see any interest in us keeping them separate, to be honest. They're kind of small and weird lots from a bygone era, so.
Yeah, through the mayor. It's the cleanest way would be to have the survey done, the consolidation done. Registering a section 219 involves legal fees, and it usually involves a survey of some sort and other things. We could do a variance, but like I said, it wouldn't probably be the best tool for the job. I suspect that we would probably recommend a consolidation before moving forward, especially with a project of this nature. We're looking at 6 units. It's not just a single home. Yeah, I suspect that's where we'd probably go with it.
And there are some neighbors there too, as well, in that little cul-de-sac. So, okay. So I'm going to recommend that we suggest that we write a letter in support of the housing seniors needs. I think that's fairly understood here in our community. The other 2, I'm going to negate for this point in time, unless someone has some suggestion. But I'm quite okay to provide a letter supporting the needs for senior housing. So could you make that motion? Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Fleur. Okay, all those in favor of writing the letter supporting senior housing? Thank you very much, Council. That's approved. And then I think the other 2 we'll have to leave till later. Information provided. Go ahead, Councillor Fleur.
Well, I was going to say that staff time shouldn't be spent trying to do something on the other 2 issues until there's actually a plan and money to
Till
build.
something comes before. Go ahead.
Through your
CEO.
worship, we'll include in the letter that council just isn't at a place to make the decision whether it be land use or the consolidation of the lots until she has funding and is moving forward with the project, and then can cross that bridge at that time. So we'll put something in the letter.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I thought she was here, but she must have gone. She left. Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Mark.
Just to confirm, through you, Mr. Mayor, to CAO, there'll be 2 separate letters, one for the supporting seniors housing and one for just a statement of what our decisions were today. Right, it's not all going to be one big letter.
Yeah, so the letter supporting senior housing could be used for her grant applications and so on. The other, if you just want us to send a letter to her explaining kind of what the decision process is, we can do that in two.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Copy, council. Okay. All right. Recommendations for staff for decisions. So development permit DP 2602 71309 9th Street Boundary Lodge Renos. And I'll read the recommendation, and then you can ask questions. Recommendation is the council approves development permit DP 2602 for exterior upgrades to Boundary Lodge, including new facement siding and trim. Aluminum soffits, windows, door replacements within existing openings, conversions of the courtyard gazebo to scooter parking. The world is coming there. We're all there now. Don't get too excited. We're scooter parking. Concrete and paver repairs and reconfiguration of the entrance canopy with a new sloped metal roof and timber trusses in accordance with the terms and conditions of the permit. Okay, now we'll go ahead, Councillor Lafleur.
I like this proposal that they're putting money into making the residents more attractive, more comfortable for the seniors that reside there. I guess I'm just a little bit sad that they're losing their courtyard gazebo because it was a nice spot.
Would you make the motion then? Okay, thank you. Motion made. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any further questions? Councillor Mark.
Yes, my only concern with this was the sloped roof by the entranceway. I know flat roofing can be a huge struggle in this town. There's very few people that do it, and it's very limited schedule to do it. I see snow and ice falling on people getting in and out of their car in wheelchairs. I don't know if there's any room for discussion with this on them, but I don't see it being a good idea.
Councillor Krog?
Yeah, the one side just goes into, according to the picture, goes
Right.
into there. So if they just did an L shape, that way it won't drop on the parking spot. That will create the same effect. It'll just be,
Is that something that we can recommend?
So
what
through
we-
your worship, it's form and character. So you're looking at the form and character guidelines as far as the aesthetics and the siding and the other aspects of it. The build itself will meet the building code requirements.
Okay. That's the answer.
I think the
Councilor Mark.
aesthetics of seniors being crushed by falling snow and ice is unbearable. But I guess it's up to them. There's just one point that I thought of.
Okay, Councillor Fleur.
If the slope is steep enough and it looks quite steep, it will just slide down and it won't accumulate and become an iceberg like.
All right. Any further questions on this? We all might be here one day, so take notes. So, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council. Appointment of the 2026 election. Oh my goodness! Local election, municipal election officials, corporate services. The council appoints Tracy Butler as the chief electoral officer for the city of Grand Forks and directs staff to execute a contract with the CEO for overseeing the 2026 general municipal election. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Fleur. Seconded by Councillor Mark. Questions? Councillor Thompson.
Is this the same lady that did our last election, or is it someone different?
No, it is someone new. The last chief electoral officer was Teresa Lenardin, who had recently at that point retired from the regional district. We contacted her. She's not available this year due to some other contracting work that she's doing with Warfield. And so Tracy has just in December retired as the corporate officer from the city of Castlegar, and she is available to take this on and has obviously run multiple elections during her time there.
Councillor Studley.
I know a big part of this is to save some staff some time and et cetera, et cetera. Having been through the past couple elections with a similar thing, it was always you or somebody from our local staff that I was dealing with, so it doesn't seem like it actually saved staff any time. Could you just clarify like what the scope of their work might be?
Absolutely. So we will still do certain things with local staff, and that will include things like accepting nominations at the front counter. We won't pay to have a contractor come over for 5 days to do things like that. But the contract chief electoral officer is responsible for hiring all of the day staff, for dealing with all of the advertising that happens and make sure that it's accurate and it's been filed on time. They're doing all of the reporting to Elections BC when candidate nominations come in, and also will be here on the day of the election to oversee the balloting process and the final reporting.
Okay. So moved and seconded. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Early capital budget approval. The recommendation is that council grants early budget approval for the bleacher assessment at James Donaldson Park in the amount of $10,000, forming part of the 2026 capital infrastructure assessment project as included in the draft 2026-2030 financial plan. Therefore, authorizing staff to proceed with the work prior to the adoption of the 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Lafleur, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Questions, Councillor Mark?
Yeah, I just kind of was. Do we have sort of how we got to the $10,000 estimate for that assessment on that?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Through the mayor to Councillor Mark. So during strategic planning, this came up as something council wanted to take on. Judgment call at the time was from me, and it would be around 10,000. I've since reached out to 3 engineers, all of whom have responded, and 2 of their numbers are below that. So we'll plan to award to one of those 2. That's where that came from. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I guess the word would be let's play ball. Isn't that the buzzwords? Okay, moving along. Requests arising from correspondence. We had a letter from the of support for the BC Association of Farmers Markets. You saw where 183 lower income households redeemed 79,000 plus in coupons at the Grand Forks Farmers Market in 2025. And the request is for funding. Be sent a letter to the Honorable Josie Osborne. She'll hear from me again. BC Minister of Health would go a long way in demonstrating the importance of continuing expanding funding investment in the BC Farmers Markets coupon nutrition program in your riding. Thank you, Councillor Lafleur.
I'll move that we send the letter.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mark? Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next request was from the for the Grand Forks Farmers Market. The request for the use of the facility, use of the area, and that stuff. So, is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Fleur. Seconded by Councillor Krog. Any questions? I think they've done a very good job over the past few years. So, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council. Moving along, no late items. Questions from the public and media before we go into in camera.
Nothing by email.
Okay. Questions in the gallery? Seeing none. Okay. I'll have so I'd like a motion to go into camera, please. Thank you, Councillor Mark. Second by Councillor Fleur. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, those in the gallery. Have a great day. Go enjoy the sunshine. Get some vitamin D.